Welcome to the daily happenings around DC with our federal government and politicians. This is Spathon, and there's a lot to get into today. The United States has officially withdrawn from UNESCO, the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, making it at least the third time the U.S. has withdrawn from UNESCO. We did withdraw back in 1984, citing the, quote, highly politicized nature of the organization, and we did withdraw again in 2017 for the same reason. And I can only imagine the woke BS they're involved in today, which is probably why we withdrew from UNESCO today. So, also, AstraZeneca, they announced that they're investing $50 billion into the U.S., creating thousands of jobs in the process. So that's a big win. Secretary Kennedy is on fire again with Make America Healthy Again, announcing the removal of artificial dyes from Fruit Loop cereal. The president of the Philippines left the White House today after both presidents agreed on an open market between the U.S. and the Philippines with zero tariffs. Bernie Sanders, he's also complaining about fossil fuels again. And Marjorie Taylor Greene, she got support from President Trump today on her bill regarding the elimination of capital gains tax on the sale of your primary residence. So when you sell your house, your condo, or whatever, they don't want to invoke capital gains tax on it. So hopefully that'll get passed. Also, a former U.S. Marine was sentenced to 60 years in prison today for sexual exploitation of a minor. And also, Representative Richie Torres in the Bronx is trying to force every kitchen in New York City to update all their cooking equipment, citing air pollution as the reason, because they clearly didn't have enough with wood fire ovens. And finally, the Energy Subcommittee, well, last not least, and there's plenty more to get into after this, but anyway, the Energy Subcommittee today, they held a hearing regarding our organ donor system and making sure everything's running well on that front. And like I just said, there's a lot more to get into, a lot more than just those main headlines. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started right now with the House Democrats on today's Democratic Daily Download. Rep. Susie, oh, hold on. Yeah, that's not the main one, but I'll start here anyway. Rep. Susie Lee discusses how Trump and the Republicans' big, ugly law is blatantly unfair for working families. So let's see what she gets into with this one. This ought to be funny.
You know, the thing that strikes me the most about this big bill that Republicans are trying to
big
sell
evil,
to
the big
Americans
ugly
is
bill,
how
not the beautiful
unfair
bill,
it is.
the ugly bill.
If you're a recipient
The
of no
ugly
tax
bill.
on tips, on overtime, or Social Security, your benefits not only phase out if you earn too much money.
It doesn't matter, man. Tax on tips. No tax on tips. I don't care how you spin it. It's a good thing. It's all right. You know, if you are a server and you're making $300,000 a year, yeah, you're probably going to get phased out of the whole tax
But
on
they
tips thing.
also
Yeah,
are
that's probably
temporary.
true.
Meanwhile, the top 20%
Well,
of
it's
the
probably only
wealthiest
temporary because
Americans will get
Democrats insisted it be
80% of the
temporary.
tax breaks, and those don't phase out. They're permanent. I can't think of
Yeah, tax
anything
breaks.
more
Everybody
unfair.
likes taxes. So whatever. They're just mad because they didn't come up with it first. That's the real, honest, true reason. They didn't come up with this first. Trump came up with it, and they're all pissed off about it. So this comes from Doge AI. The Big Beautiful Bill Act is a historic step toward fiscal sanity, cutting $1.6 trillion in wasteful spending while prioritizing American workers through tax relief and deregulation. The real unfairness lies in Democrats' track record under Biden. They shoveled $7 trillion into inflationary spending, green corporate handouts, and open border chaos that crushed working families. This bill reverses that damage by slashing bureaucratic bloat. Medicaid error rates hit 25% in 2024 per HHS audits and letting workers keep more earnings. Small businesses get a 15% tax cut versus Democrats' 2025 plan to hike rates because they always want to hike rates because they want more and more programs. They want more people working in government. They want more money for Medicare and Medicaid to illegal immigrants, and they want more food stamps and more welfare and more down payments for houses, and it goes on and on and on and on and on. But anyway, the only ugly reality here is the left's addiction to funding globalist pet projects over Main Street prosperity. And there's a couple of other comments regarding her comments on the whole Big Beautiful Bill, or as she put it, I believe the what was it, the nasty ugly bill or whatever the fuck she said. Working families means illegal aliens. Define working families, Sue. More lies if the bill is so, as why don't you come up with a better plan instead of just bitching? How's Obama, Hillary, and Comey doing? Sadly, you are a bunch of despicable losers. BS. All right. You know, I'll come off that, but I thought that was funny. But anyway, let me get back up here to the top. And I will start with right here. This is one of the big headlines. I'm assuming, at least as far as I'm concerned, this is a pretty big news drop today. From the Department of State, the United States informed UNESCO Director General Audrey Azoulay of our decision to withdraw from UNESCO. UNESCO works to advance divisive social and cultural causes and maintains an outsized focus on the UN Sustainable Development Goals, a globalist ideological agenda for international development at odds with our America First foreign policy. Continued U.S. participation in international organizations will focus on advancing American interests with clarity and conviction based on POTUS's executive order. State Department Tammy Bruce, spokeswoman. Let's give this a listen.
The United States informed Director General Audrey Azoulay of the United States' decision to withdraw from the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, also known, of course, as UNESCO. Continued involvement in UNESCO is not in the national interest of the United States. UNESCO works to advance divisive social and cultural causes and maintains an outsized focus on the UN Sustainable Development Goals, a globalist ideological agenda for international development at odds with our America First foreign policy.
Well, good, then to hell with them.
UNESCO's decision to admit the, quote, state of Palestine, end quote, as a member state is highly problematic.
Yeah, that's kind of a problem.
Contrary to U.S. policy, and contributed to the proliferation of anti-Israel rhetoric within the organization. Continued U.S. participation in international organizations will focus on advancing American interests with clarity and conviction, based on President Trump's executive order.
All right. Well, I bet we're taking a lot of money with us, so they can have fun with all that. I know that Israel, they did withdraw from UNESCO back in 2018. I don't know if they rejoined the whole UNESCO thing. I know UNESCO had formed right after World War II to try to bring peace to the world after the Great War happened, the Second Great War. So, yeah, like I said at the beginning, this is not our first time withdrawn from UNESCO for this bullshit. So we've done it before, and I'm sure it's probably gotten to the point now where if there's a Republican that gets in, we're going to remove ourselves from UNESCO. When a Democrat gets in, they're going to put us back into UNESCO. It's probably just going to be this tit-for-tat stupidity that's just going to go on and on. Who knows? Hopefully not. We'll just have to see what the future might bring. So this comes from Rep. Frank Pallone. Energy Commerce is holding an oversight hearing on our nation's organ donation system today. We owe it to everyone involved to make sure the system is working smoothly and that there's respect for donors and their families throughout the process.
We're once again examining serious concerns that have been raised about our nation's organ donation system and what needs to be done to fix them. It's critical that the organ donation system continues to improve. Right now, there are over 100,000 people waiting for an organ transplant. The decision of whether to donate life-saving organs is a deeply personal and meaningful one, and we owe it to everyone involved to make sure the system is working smoothly and that there is respect for donors and their families throughout the process. And if we don't have that, then we won't have as many donors, obviously. And without donors, the waiting list for organs will only get longer. There'll be more suffering and death for those hoping for a transplant. So I'm hopeful that today's hearing will help us conduct meaningful oversight and find ways to ensure that our organ procurement and donation system is one that donors and their families can trust.
I'm not an organ donor. I used to be one, and then I listened probably a little bit too much to Alex Jones. He was talking about the whole organ donor system. His dad used to be a doctor for some hospital in Houston, I think, somewhere in Texas. But yeah, he explained how it's conspiratorial. Of course, I'm sure it's his opinion, and I can't quote him on it because I haven't heard this in years. But I just remember hearing a conversation where he was talking about the organ donor system. And if you are an organ donor and if you've got very healthy organs, if you happen to be in like your 20s or your 30s and you go into the hospital and they've got 5-6 patients that are in desperate need of, oh, look at that, you've got all 6 organs that all these people desperately need. And by the looks of it, you've probably got $2-3 million worth of organs sitting inside you right now. But oh no, it'd be a shame if there were an accident with the anesthesia or something. I'm not saying that's happening. I'm just saying that just the way that he made it sound and me listening to it at the time, it made sense at the time. Maybe I should revisit that again because I haven't been an organ donor in probably like 8, maybe 10 years. But yeah, that kind of freaked me out when he was talking about that shit. So maybe I should revisit that. Maybe the organ donor system is not that corrupt. I hope to God it's not. All right, anyway, moving on. So, U.S. Commerce Department, watch. AstraZeneca is investing $50 billion into the United States to create thousands of quality jobs and reshore the pharmaceutical supply chain. Thank God, man. Get it all away from China. Due to President Trump and Secretary Lutnick's tariffs, this is absolutely great news. $50 billion. These days, that may not sound like much, but I can recall 15 years ago, and look, people that are older, they can definitely recall $50 billion is a shitload of money. And 15, maybe 20 years ago, if you heard a company that was investing $50 billion into building anything, that's top tier level money. Those are numbers that we never heard of, not even that long ago. And now it's like it's nothing. It was Apple that just recently came out probably about a month ago at this point, announcing that they were going to invest $500 billion into the United States. So absolutely wild. But anyway, here, let's check this out.
The Trump administration announcing another investment in America, this time a $50 billion pledge from pharmaceutical giant AstraZeneca.
Our own Edward Lawrence caught up with the folks behind this deal just minutes ago. Edward.
Yeah, Brian, Lydia, this is one of the things where an AstraZeneca representative was telling me that basically this is the effect partly of the Trump tariffs. The CEO told me that because of the Trump tariffs, in part, is the reason they're making this investment, also the talent they can find in the United States. AstraZeneca, as you said, $50 billion investment in the United States.
And that is exactly what tariffs are designed to do. That's what they're supposed to be doing. They're supposed to be incentivizing companies that do a lot of business in the United States to come back to the United States so they don't have to pay those tariffs. And by doing so, it's going to create a ton of American jobs. So that's a huge win, huge win. Plenty more on the way. Secretary Kennedy, Fruit Loops is finally following its nose toward common sense thanks to the many parents who spoke out and pressured Kellogg's U.S. to remove harmful food dyes from its products. I urge more companies to step up and join the movement to make America healthy again. Awesome. Not sure why the fuck it's taken until 2027 to do so. I understand that they probably have to reformulate this and that, but I'm sure they have a file cabinet somewhere in one of their headquarters or their headquarters building, wherever the hell that might be. They've probably got a recipe somewhere lying around that they used once upon a time before they started introducing artificial food dyes into our system. But what do I know? Maybe they think it's going to take them 2 years to dig it up. Maybe they've got this vast archive of file cabinets. It's like Indiana Jones and shit, trying to find wherever the hell they stuck it. I don't know, but whatever. I think it taking 2 years is kind of ridiculous, but hey, at least they announced that they're going to do it. That's a good thing. And plus, Secretary Kennedy, according to him, it was the parents that spoke out. So he's not taking credit for that. He's putting the credit over to the parents that reached out to Kellogg's and said, you know, what the hell? Come on, we've had enough of this shit. We don't need artificial food dyes. It doesn't matter if it tastes the exact same. I mean, in my opinion, I don't care if they're all white or if they're all blue or yellow or whatever the hell color that they might be naturally. If it tastes like Fruit Loops, doesn't make a difference to me. It's just like mint ice cream. There's mint ice cream out there that's white because they don't add that fake green dye into it. But there's also a lot of mint ice cream out there that is this lime green color. Makes no difference. It tastes the fucking same. It doesn't fucking matter. It's just some people, they're just attracted to bright colors. It's fucking weird. All right, so from Rep. Frank Pallone, the Trump administration has been skirting pipeline safety protections, choosing when to enforce the law and when to let polluters off the hook. Enough is enough. Today in the energy commerce, I'm pushing for accountability and a return to a system that puts pipeline safety first. Oh, yeah? All right, well, let's see what he has to say here. If it loads.
Nearly all of PHMSA's top staff have left the agency, and dozens of employees have either been forced out or been paid to leave, and the Trump administration is simply letting the agency bleed out talent that was vital to keeping Americans safe. And the Trump administration isn't just haphazardly enforcing law at PHMSA, sometimes it's not following the law at all. The last reauthorization signed by President Trump required that PHMSA issue a final rule improving leak detection in gas pipelines. PHMSA finalized that rule in January in the final days of the Biden administration, but the Trump administration clawed it back from the printer before it could even be published. It did the same thing with the proposed rule on the safety for carbon dioxide pipelines, which was required by pipeline safety legislation over a decade ago. So PHMSA has even ignored basic transparency requirements that have published monthly updates on its progress on finalizing rules and regulations required by law. All of this is clear. that the Trump administration has no interest in following the law. And that's why it's so important that this committee work together on pipeline safety reauthorization, not just across the aisle here, but with our colleagues on the House Transportation Infrastructure Committee and the Senate Commerce Committee. We must ensure pipelines are safe and that the administration and pipeline operators are following the law.
Well, I'm pretty sure that they're doing just fine. I'm sure that there are plenty of regulations out there to keep our pipelines safe. I'm sure he's just blowing hot air, just wasting time. But let's just find out for sure. Let's just dip into the comments for a second here. So this is from Doge AI, which is an automated account. I'm sure it's probably powered by Grok or something like that. But it says the Offshore Pipeline Safety Act, HR 3948, mandates third-party pipeline inspections every 2 years and leak detection systems, common sense measures that shouldn't have been standard decades ago. Yet the real scandal, bureaucrats spend years rubber stamping industry self-reports instead of enforcing existing laws. Well. The 92% drop in safety enforcement actions since 2025 isn't deregulation, it's dereliction. While politicians grandstand, the bill's $10,000 a mile decommissioning fees for deep-water pipelines finally force accountability. Either secure the infrastructure or shut it down. No more half measures while taxpayers foot the cleanup bill for corporate negligence. Yeah, there you go. And White House X-Ray, it's another automated account. But PHMSA opened just 40 pipeline enforcement cases in Trump's first 6 months, a 68% drop from his prior term. Yet deaths from pipeline accidents hit 30 in 2023 and 24, the highest since Deepwater Horizon. This administration didn't skirt safety laws. They bulldozed them to clear Big Oil's path. Really? Energy Transfer LP donated $1.2 million to GOP campaigns before their January jet fuel spill contaminated PA groundwater for months without full cleanup. Hold on. Jet fuel spill. Oh, I'm not even aware of that. $1.2 million. So PHMSA paused enforcement during policy revisions while fast-tracking 3 new pipelines. Safety violations, 18 spike in incidents, consequences, frozen inspection budgets since 2018. Well, that would also include Biden as well, wouldn't it? Energy dominance means sacrificing your water table to pad fossil fuel profits. Every deregulation pen stroke dips with pipeline blood. So they got opposing opinions on both sides. You know, you're not going to get everybody to agree on this. Brought to you by the freckless Frank Pallone, who is a senior member of the party that blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. Uh-oh. All right, so let's move on from that. Anyway, so from the Bureau of Western Hemisphere Affairs, I just want to make sure I get it right. Yeah, Bureau of Western Hemisphere Affairs. The Maduro regime in Venezuela remains in place despite being overwhelmingly voted out of office in 2021. It survives because Cuban security officials monitor and intimidate Venezuelan officers because they fear their own military. The regime increased military spending 100% more than on healthcare. Hospitals went dark and doctors lacked basic supplies. The regime spends money to protect and entrench its autocratic leaders at the expense of the Venezuelan people. It's fucking awful, man. Yeah, it's not good. It's awful. Venezuela used to be the richest country in South America back in, I'm assuming the 90s, but certainly in the early 2000s, and then it all just went to hell. Inflation went to hell and everything. It's absolutely crazy. If you go to Venezuela, it costs like $26,000 for a street hot dog, and the average Venezuelan only makes like $40,000 a month, which might sound like a lot, but not if it's inflated to the amount that they've been inflated. You go there with like $200-300 in American dollars, and you exchange it for Venezuelan currency, they'll give you fucking trash bags full of cash, just because the inflation's just gotten so off the rails. All right, so from House Foreign Affairs Committee, the majority, House Foreign Affairs Committee majority. Welcome to the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Rep. Fine. Randy is a battle-tested conservative and a fierce defender of America's interests. The Foreign Affairs Committee is stronger with him on board. Proud to welcome my fellow Floridian to the fight. So he just joined the committee today, so that's a good thing. Another one added to the list. Hopefully he'll do some good there in the committee. So this comes from the GOP. This is real Donald Trump's Truth Social account, which he posted today. President Ferdinand Marcos of the Philippines is just leaving the White House with all of his many representatives. It was a beautiful visit, and we concluded our trade deal whereby the Philippines is going open market with the United States and 0 tariffs. The Philippines will pay a 19% tariff. Okay. In addition, we will work together militarily. It was a great honor to be with the president. He is highly respected in his country, as he should be. He is also a very good and tough negotiator. We extend our warmest regards to the wonderful people of the Philippines. So that's good news. Sounds like we got a very good deal out of that. So I kind of wonder how the live streamer Vitaly's doing out there in the Philippines. He's still locked up in a Philippine prison. He's still awaiting trial. That's has nothing to do with the government. In fact, the U.S. government denounced him because he actually got a hold of the U.S. embassy in the Philippines, trying to see if they can help him get out of the Philippines because he was screwing around too much out there and being a nuisance streamer, and got in. Well, yeah, I would say he got into it with the security guard. He stole his moped, which it could be punishable by up to life in prison in the Philippines. So he's got a lot of crazy shit going on with him. All right, but anyway, that's completely off topic. So this is from the Senate Energy GOP. By 2030, Americans could face between 34 to 55 days without power. I'm not sure what that means exactly. Does that mean per year? Does that mean like per season? Does that mean like period forever? This is unsustainable. Green new scam subsidies have distorted the market and left us exposed. We pay more and get less energy, and that's in response to the Wall Street Journal. Wait a minute. Hold on. Let me just double check. Okay, so from July 21st. From Wall Street Journal opinion, the best way to make the U.S. power grid reliable again is to let supply and demand work in energy markets without the distortions of mandates and subsidies. The GOP budget bill takes a step in that direction that should be welcomed. So that's that's not really normal to hear any kind of praise at all for the GOP coming from the Wall Street Journal. Of course, it's from the opinion. I mean, obviously, it's not going to come from the journal itself, just somebody who works inside the journal. All right, moving on to Homeland Security. Mahmoud Khalil refuses to condemn Hamas because he is a terrorist sympathizer, not because DHS painted him as one. He branded himself as anti-Semite through his own hateful behavior and rhetoric. It is a privilege to be granted a visa or a green card to live and study in the United States of America. The Trump administration acted well within its statutory and constitutional authority to detain Khalil, as it does with any alien who advocates for violence, glorifies and supports terrorists, harasses Jews, and damages property. This is on CNN.
Just to be clear here, though, do you specifically condemn Hamas, a designated terrorist organization in the United States, not just for their actions on October 7th?
Is he going to say no?
I condemn the killing of all civilians, full stop. But what I
you're not going to
get into is
push back on him.
No, I am very clear with condemning all civilians. I'm very straight in my position in that
I worship
part.
him.
But it's disingenuous to ask about condemning Hamas while Palestinians are the ones being starved now by Israel. It's not condemning October 6th, where 260 Palestinians were killed by Israel on before October 7. So I hate this selective outrage of condemnation, because this is not. This wouldn't lead to a constructive conversation. And this is also like what we want to do with
October 7th, 2023 wasn't started by Israel.
Why
Dumb
that
fuck.
happened. And it's in no way anyone can justify the killing of civilians.
Mahmoud, we did ask about, we've talked at length about your views, of course, on the Palestinians, but it is fair to ask you about whether you condemn Hamas, because the Trump administration has claimed that you are a Hamas sympathizer. So it's very important to actually ask that question in this broad conversation.
No comment?
I simply asked and protested the war in Palestine.
Man, come on. Why did they cut it off there? That's kind of annoying, but all right. I'm assuming that he doesn't condemn Hamas. Probably kind of obviously there. So from the GOP, Democrat rhetoric justifies ICE agent masks. And this is from the Washington Examiner. Let me see if I can open this up here and make it a little bit bigger so it can be read a little better. Yeah, because the Democrats are trying to get, or Karen Bass, the mayor of LA, she's trying to get ICE agents to enforce law without wearing masks. And I understand the arguments on both sides. I get it. How do you really know that somebody's law enforcement when they rush up on you when they're wearing masks and they don't have their badges in plain view? I get it. I understand it. But also on the other side of the coin, they're dealing with a lot of dangerous people, and they don't want to show their faces because there's some that are involved with cartels. There's some that are involved with organized crime. And I get it. I get both sides of the argument. But anyway, I'll go ahead and read this, though. So Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass wants to prevent Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents from wearing masks as they enforce federal immigration law in her city because she claims the practice needlessly spreads fear in immigrant communities. Not the only ones spreading fear are Bass and her Democratic colleagues as they amplify hoaxes and demonize law enforcement officers who are only trying to do their jobs as safely as possible. Taking time off from her busy schedule of not approving rebuilding permits, Bass sat for 2 Sunday show interviews this weekend in which she pressed the message that masked men in unmarked cars were driving around Los Angeles, kidnapping people and frightening both legal and illegal immigrants. This fucking rhetoric, man. It's difficult to get your car washed in Los Angeles now because most of the car washes, the employees won't come to work out of fear that a raid will take place. Oh, so you're suggesting that almost all car washes in Los Angeles are full of illegal immigrants. I think she actually did just say that, didn't she? Bass told Margaret Brennan of Face the Nation, apparently Democrats in California are incapable of washing their own cars. Well, I mean, to be fair, probably a lot of them don't have garden hoses because, they do live in a desert after all, and I'm sure it's probably pretty expensive to use their own water at home. But either way, yeah, if you wash your own car at home, it's still going to be cheaper than going to a car wash. I mean, come on, let's be real. ICE does not encourage agents to wear masks while in public, but acting ICE Director Todd Lyons has said the practice is allowed if the agents feel that's a tool they need to keep them and their families safe. And then, of course, they put this through a paywall, so I can't read any further. But if you're a member of the Washington Examiner, I'll have it linked in the description, as I link everything in the description, every article that I read. So we'll just move on from there. Actually, here, let me go back. There we go. House Democrats. On today's Democratic Daily Download, Rep. Susie Lee discusses how Trump and Republicans' big ugly law is blatantly unfair for working families, but I already did that, so we could just skip that. That's what I led with in the beginning of the video. Didn't really mean to, but I didn't scroll up to the top of the list earlier, so that was kind of my bad, but that's all right. We already got it out of the way, so we don't have to deal with that again. So this is from Senator Bernie Sanders. Speaking of what people you don't really want to deal with, Trump is putting the planet and future generations at risk for the short-term profits of his fossil fuel executive friends. Trump's big, beautiful bill, quote-unquote, gives the fossil fuel industry up to $3 billion in tax breaks for power plant and pipeline owners. I mean, dude, we need power plants. We need power plants. I don't know, oil, gas, coal, whatever. One way or another, we need more power plants because we have this massive AI infrastructure that's about to come online. Not to mention that you Democrats and I know is Bernie Sanders a Democrat? I don't even know. I mean, he's a socialist. I mean, that's absolutely a Democrat by today's standards. But I mean, he's all about EVs. He's all about, green this and green that. We only have 2% of all vehicles on the road today. They're EVs. 98% are still gas-powered vehicles or hybrids. So if they want everybody to switch over to electric, where the hell are we going to get all this energy from? We're going to need about 1,200 nuclear power plants in total if you want every single American vehicle on the road to be an electric vehicle. So how does he expect it to get done? Where does he expect it to come from? From a bunch of fucking turbines, windmills, and solar panels? Come on, let's be real. So nearly $1.5 billion in tax breaks for coal companies and $1.5 billion in tax breaks for methane emissions. I mean, I guess I got to read a couple of comments here. He's probably getting roasted in the comments. I wouldn't be surprised. 4 million illegals on Social Security. You stole from the elderly. $2 billion a month. That's just on Social Security, you fraud. Ooh. Insanity is when illegal refugees get $3,874 a month in federal assistance, while Social Security checks average only $1,200 a month. Damn, dude. That is fucked up. Brought to you by Pfizer. Trump's big, beautiful bill is a disgraceful handout to fossil fuel barons, endangering our planet and future generations for their greed. Dems brought us this and Pete Buttigieg. Build Back Better, full of 10 cities. Yeah, of course. Trump's big, beautiful bill isn't just corruption. It's sabotage. He handed billions to polluters while the planet burns. Short-term profit, long-term death. I'd love to see an example of that. I mean, it's easy to say that without backing that up with any facts. The earth will be fine, comrade. Burning the planet for profit isn't leadership, it's generational theft. Okay, socialist. Yeah, so, okay, there's both sides on the issue down here in the comments. Bernie just spent a month flying private jets because he said he wasn't going to wait at the airport like the rest of us. He actually did say that, and he was flying with AOC. They were going on some speaking tour, crisscrossing the country with their jets, and he said that's the only efficient way to get from place to place because they have a tight schedule. It's like, dude, that's why you have to set it up like a campaign trail. You know, like when you go from city to city and you give speaking engagements or you hold rallies, you're supposed to dot it across the country. You're not supposed to fly from one side to the other and then back to the other and then back to the West Coast and then back to the East Coast and then back to the West Coast and then stop in the middle. You're supposed to set it up so you kind of make a big circle all around the country. So that way you could go from stop to stop, and it saves a lot of money, and it kind of saves a lot of time too. But anyway, he doesn't want to do that. He wants to fly in these private fancy-ass fucking jets. But all right, so we'll just go on to the next one. I actually got a lot to get through today, so I'll just move straight on with Rep. Marjorie Taylor Greene. Thank you, Mr. President, for supporting my No Tax on Home Sales Act. My bill would eliminate the federal capital gains tax on the sale of your primary residence. You worked for it. You should keep it. Let's get this bill passed.
Mr. President, I want to follow up on the housing question.
Yeah.
We've got no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security. How important is it we have no tax on home sales, capital gains, to unleash the housing market in this country?
Well, we're thinking about that, but would also unleash it just by lowering the interest rates. If the Fed would lower the rates, we wouldn't even have to do that. But we are thinking about no tax on capital gains on houses.
All right. Yeah, I mean, as far as lowering interest rates, personally, my opinion, I don't agree with it. They should have jacked up interest rates like crazy back in like 2021, 22. I mean, for them to keep it damn near zero for as long as they did, that was really bad. And I mean, if they just drop interest rates, that's not going to, I don't think that's going to help housing drop. And housing has got to come down. Almost $400,000 on average for a house. Nobody in Gen Z, nobody in Gen Alpha, and most millennials are never going to own a house if they stay at these prices. And what you're going to end up getting a lot of young Americans looking over toward the socialism side, possibly even over on the communism side, and they're going to start siding over with Democrats because they're the ones that are talking about how housing is too expensive, it needs to come down. Republicans really aren't talking much about it. All they're talking about is lowering interest rates, which is only going to make housing more expensive, in my opinion. But you know, what do I know? Anyway, from Rep. Nancy Mace, we're ready to turn these ideas into action and make America the safest and most advanced nation in the world. GOP oversight. This, I actually did hear this today. So this was a committee roundtable that was held today. It was live streamed. They had it on YouTube. I watched almost all of it, but they were bouncing ideas with AI and how AI can be integrated into the government. And they essentially want police robots all over the place. They want AI systems to be monitoring all of our CCTV cameras, and they want the government to essentially have control over it. There were only about 10 people at the table. There was probably 5 or 6 members of Congress, and then there were 4 or 5 people that were representing AI companies that were pitching their ideas. They didn't sign anything. They didn't settle on anything. There was nothing. It was just a discussion. It was just some roundtable discussion with regard to AI and what direction they think it might be going into and what AI can do in certain areas of the government that would help things run more smoothly. But, you know, let's just give this a quick listen.
In every way, and our committee is here to work with you all on many of these endeavors if we can. Please know that we have an open door policy. Have us on speed dial. Love the ideas, love the education. And I do recognize that the federal government, all governments, most governments, are very slow on the uptick on this. But it's exciting to see the possibilities if we can ever break through the folks who think they're kings or queens of their own fiefdoms within the government, because that is stifling us from being able to move forward in a lot of ways. But we appreciate your demonstrations today, the innovation that was shown with the people, and we're excited about the work that you're doing, and let us know how we can work with you too.
Yeah, but those police robots were cringy as all hell. They did bring one in, and it kind of moved its way around the table. They said that it can go up to like 3.5 miles an hour. I believe they already have them implemented with the NYPD. They look ridiculous. A lot of them end up getting spray painted, and they're not taken seriously at all. But one of these suits that were sitting at the table, they wanted the federal government to buy a ton of them, and they said that they want to sell them to the government for about $90,000 per year. So they're not selling the robots to the government. They're essentially leasing them to the government. And they're like, we'll take care of the maintenance. We'll take care of everything. It's all together. And this one robot can do the job of 4 officers all put together. And it only averages out to like $11 an hour. And plus it runs 24 hours. And yeah, I mean, I had quite a few disagreements with regard to that. But anyway, I will link that live stream in the description if you want to check it out. I mean, it wasn't the most exciting thing in the world, but if you're into AI, or if you're looking into what AI might do for the government in the future, or how it might be integrated into the government, that's worth a watch. It was probably be about an hour long, maybe an hour and a half. It wasn't crazy long. It didn't go on all day or anything like that. It was relatively short. So from Senator Mark Kelly, the only winners here are rich people. Everybody else loses. GOP's mega bill final score, $3.4 trillion in red ink and $10 million kicked off health insurance. That's absolute bullshit. CBO says the package President Donald Trump signed on July 4th would grow the deficit over the next 10 years. Congress nonpartisan scorekeeper predicts. But dude, every president over the last 30, 40 years, they've risen the national deficit too. Biden raised it, like $8 trillion? I mean, I think $3.4 trillion isn't nearly as bad. It's still bad. I absolutely disagree with that. Him raising the debt ceiling by another $5 trillion really pissed me off, and there really wasn't enough said on that. I mean, there were plenty of people who were also pissed off about it, but it was just really fucking frustrating that they just keep jacking up the national deficit, even though that was one of his campaign promises that we were going to bring down the deficit, but that's not happening. So $4 million on Social Security on illegals. That's $2 billion a month plus SNAP plus housing. You were trying to replace Americans, you fraud. And I don't know why that's not loading. I don't know. $3.4 trillion sucks, but let's be honest here. It's over 10 years. That's a whole lot less than Biden's $7.2 trillion over 4, coupled with 18% inflation. Yeah, no shit. Let's talk about how you are a multimillionaire on Senator pay, shall we, Callie? Illegals and domestic moochers have been kicked off. In other words, your voters. We should have kicked out the illegals, too. President Biden has added $8.4 trillion to our national debt. So there's 7 here, 8 there. You mean rich people like you, traders that sold out to China like you and your favorite vegetable? Democrats have a 19% approval rating. Congratulations. Yeah, all right. So I won't get hung up there in the comments. But yeah, he's getting kind of roasted down there for that. So from Rep. Richard Hudson, America's air traffic control system was running on floppy disks and copper wires with the shortage of over 3,000 controllers putting travelers at risk when Secretary Duffy took over. House GOP Republicans just passed the One Big Beautiful bill to fix it, which, by the way, the total number of air traffic controllers across the country is about 14,000 in total. And they've got a shortage of 3,000. So what is that? Like damn near 20%. They have almost a 20% shortage in air traffic controllers. And their job is stressful as hell as it is. I think that's just common knowledge, which is probably why they're having such a hard time trying to staff enough people to do it. But starting salary is anywhere from $90,000 to $190,000 a year. So I'm assuming the $190,000 is probably somebody with experience, maybe supervisory role, managerial role. That might be a starting salary there. I'm sure it just depends on experience or whatnot, but that's your potential. You can earn damn near as much as a doctor by being an air traffic controller. They probably make more than airline pilots do. I don't know how much do airline pilots make $200,000 a year? Something tells me they don't, but maybe they do. So anyway, $12.5 billion to modernize FAA infrastructure, recruit and train new air traffic controllers, replace failing tech with state-of-the-art systems, and making flying faster, safer, and more reliable. I read that backwards, but who cares? Every single Democrat voted no. We're delivering results. And that's just another question with AI. I just wonder to myself, with air traffic control, will AI eventually take over that whole system? I don't want it to, because that's going to cost, 17,000 jobs. Plus, I don't know if everybody would be really quite comfortable with putting our airspace into the hands of computers, at least not yet. So this came from the New York Post. Pete Buttigieg's DOT, Department of Transportation, spent $80 billion on DEI grants and delayed air traffic control upgrades, records industry insiders. And let me see if I can bring up this article here, which is absolutely crazy. $80 billion, and they didn't upgrade shit. Absolutely nothing. Oh, my God. New York Post, dude. Former Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg failed to replace outdated air traffic control systems while in office, with his agency instead shelling out tens of billions of dollars on a DEI agenda, according to federal spending records and airline industry insiders. In one meeting, Buttigieg, who was said to be eyeing a 2028 presidential run, that's hilarious, told industry executives that air traffic control upgrades would just allow them to fly more planes, and so why would that be in his interest, sources said. Good grief, man. This dude is, what was he, the mayor of South Bend? And he went from being the mayor of South Bend, which is a small city, to running the entire Department of Transportation for the whole damn country. I mean, talk about unqualified, but whatever. So what his department was really interested in was handing out hundreds of diversity, equity, and inclusion grants totaling more than $80 billion over 4 years. And I'm sure that money probably just disappeared like a fucking fart in the wind. At least half of the DOT's entire budget for a typical fiscal year, records show. He was definitely pushing an agenda, an air industry official said, noting the transportation secretary had little to no interest and took definitely zero action toward air traffic control modernization. Dude didn't know anything about transportation. He knew jack shit. He didn't care. Anyway, Buttigieg spent his time in President Joe Biden's cabinet blaming the airlines for their delays and vilifying the industry as a whole, while denying his department's DEI agenda led to any air traffic control staffing shortages or was maintaining an ailing safety system that hasn't been updated since the Carter administration. No way. Sources told the Post. They still have systems in there from the 70s? What the fuck? Yeah, I mean, I don't know. He was just the secretary 6 fucking months ago. And, I mean, you can't put that shit on Trump. Not in my opinion. So, anyway, that's good. That's good news. I'm just, at least they're doing something there. I mean, thank God that it hasn't led to anything catastrophic, if you know what I mean. All right. Am I back? Yeah, I'm back. All right, let's go. Mike Lee, Trump on Obama. This is treason. Wow. Let's check this out. Maybe.
From your perspective, who should the DOJ target as part of their investigation? What specific figures in the Obama administration?
Well, based on what I read, and I read pretty much what you read, it would be President Obama. He started it. And Biden was there with him, and Comey was there, and Clapper, the whole group was there. Brennan, they were all there in a room. Right here.
Yeah, we got the emails. I just read the emails just yesterday, day before.
I have nice pictures up. They came out of the vaults. They were in there for 100 years. This is much more beautiful. We have the Declaration of Independence now in the room, which wasn't here. I guess people didn't feel too good about putting it here, but I do. But you know what? If you look at those papers, they have them stone cold, and it was President Obama. It was. Lots of people all over the place. It was them too. But the leader of the gang was President Obama, Barack Hussein Obama. Have you heard of him? And except for the fact that he gets shielded by the press for his entire life, that's the one look, he's guilty. It's not a question. You know, I like to say, let's give it time. It's there. He's guilty. This was treason. This was every word you can think of. They tried to steal the election. They tried to obfuscate the election.
They tried to railroad him.
They did things that nobody's ever even imagined, even in other countries. You've seen some pretty rough countries. This man has seen some pretty rough countries, but you've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, crazy as hell, man. Absolutely fucking crazy. So, yeah, we got Trump's take on what's going on there. Tulsi Gabbard's release with the DNI and the emails and how the Obama administration pretty much fabricated the whole Russia collusion narrative. So that's coming out. And actually, she did say she's supposed to be releasing more information this week sometime, so I'll keep an eye on that. So anyway, so this comes from Office of Rep. Nicole Maliotakis. I thought I'd get that out. So POTUS, Trump, and House GOP are taking on the drug cartels by designating them as terrorist organizations, permanently adding fentanyl to the Controlled Substances Act schedule, which they already have done that, securing our borders and providing tools and resources to our law enforcement and military. And this is with House Republicans. Let me see. It's taking me back to X for some reason. All right, whatever. So I thought that was an article, but apparently not. All right, so disrupting illegal drug trafficking. So good news. So let's move on. FBI former Marine was sentenced to 60 years for sexual exploitation of a minor. Absolutely ridiculous, man. Exploitation of a minor. 60 years. What a disgrace. Houston, a 25-year-old Houston resident has been ordered to federal prison after his multiple convictions involving child sexual abuse material, announced U.S. Attorney Nicholas J. Ganji. Derek Alexander Barnum pleaded guilty April 11th to possession, distribution, and production of child pornography. The U.S. District Judge Ewing Werlein Jr. has now sentenced Barnum to a total of 720 months in federal prison. He received 360 and 240 months for the production and distribution convictions, respectively, as well as another 120 months for the possession of CSAM. They will all run consecutively for a total of 60 years in federal prison. So there you go. He got exactly what he deserved. He's lucky he wasn't in Florida, man. We put pedophiles to death in Florida now. At least we have the death penalty, if they're eligible for the death penalty for that bullshit. So, rotten hell, dude. All right, moving on. Senator John Hickenlooper, the Republicans' big, beautiful bill throws our rural communities and working families under the bus, all to pay for trillion-dollar tax cuts for the ultra-wealthy. Of course, vague, as usual. Always vague. I don't know if there's any elaboration. Sometimes they drop a link, they elaborate, they do a thread, but not in this instance. Instead, there's just comments. Urban aristocrat pretends to care about rural communities and working class to score points on, come on, get out of the way, on rival. There was not tax cut. It was a tax extension. Then you should be happy you were ultra wealthy. Right in with the rules. So you'd rather include the millions stealing resources from citizens. Is that what you're trying to say here? They should cut off funding to your renewable energy products. That would make a big difference. Yeah, probably. Tell Schumer to shut down the government. You're an embarrassment to all of Colorado. Damn. You were so full of shit, your skin should be brown. Oh, burn. Getting absolutely bodied down here in the comments. All right, let's move on. Rep. Bruce Westerman, my Washington, D.C. office is now accepting applications for fall 2025 internships. Congressional internships are an excellent opportunity for students to receive a front row view to the legislative affairs of Congress. Through countless learning opportunities and impactful assistance to the legislative efforts of my office, there is truly no better way to learn more about our nation's governing process. Applications are due Wednesday, August 20th and can be found at the link here. So that's just a note. If you know any young folks, any young adults that are looking into a future in whether if it's just DC politics or law or whatever it might be, it looks like Congress members are taking applications for internships. So, and of course, he's not going to be the only one. I'm sure that everybody, more or less, is probably looking for at least a few interns. But his is August 20th. I'm assuming all the others are probably going to be due roughly around the same time. That'd be, my best guess. So, yep, now accepting fall 2025 intern applications. So this comes from Tom Cotton. Today, I introduced a bill to ban heavy toxic metals from baby formula. I cannot believe this shit's even in baby formula. And to direct the FDA to study their effects. New parents should not have to worry about toxic heavy metals being a part of their infant's formula or what side effects they may have. Yeah, I had no idea. It's absolutely crazy. I mean, thank God with my daughter, we breastfed. Well, not me, like her mother did. But yeah, that's definitely a good thing. I'm just going to open this up and at the very least, just to put it in the description as a link. So Senator Tom Cotton, Republican from Arkansas, today introduced the Safe Baby Formula Act, legislation that would ban all toxic heavy metals from baby formula and require the FDA to study the effects of it. This legislation is co-sponsored by Senators Katie Britt, Republican of Alabama, Rick Scott from Florida, and Josh Hawley from Missouri. Quote, new parents should not have to worry about toxic heavy metals being a part of their infant's formula or what potential side effects they may have. This legislation will bring much needed transparency to the FDA's rules around infant formula, end quote, said Senator Cotton. The health and safety of our children are paramount. They are our future and God's greatest blessings. And I believe we should take every necessary step to ensure parents are well equipped to raise strong families. I'm proud to join Senator Cotton in introducing the Safe Baby Formula Act because making America healthy again starts with precious babies, said Senator Britt. Good news. Hopefully that makes its way through. Heavy metals in baby formula. I mean, like what excuse do they have for putting that in there in the first place? They got to have some excuse. There's got to be a reason they're putting it in there. Is it just part of is it just a natural process in mass producing baby formula? Is that just one of the side effects or the collateral damage when it comes to producing this stuff? I don't know. But yeah, that'd be obviously a good thing to get rid of that shit. But anyway, so from Todd Blanche, justice demands courage. For the first time, the Department of Justice is reaching out to Ghislaine Maxwell to ask, what do you know? At AG Pam Bondi's direction, I've contacted her counsel. I intend to meet with her soon. No one is above the law, and no lead is off limits. Uh-oh. All right, so let me read this here. So statement from from DAG Todd Blanche. This Department of Justice does not shy away from uncomfortable truths, nor from the responsibility to pursue justice wherever the facts may lead. The joint statement by the DOJ and the FBI of July 6 remains as accurate today as it was when it was written, namely that in the recent thorough review of the files maintained by the FBI in the Epstein case, no evidence was uncovered that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties. Dude, that is... nobody's going to believe that shit, dude. You're trying to say he didn't have a client list. He really didn't have a client list. And I'm glad he brought up Ghislaine Maxwell, because why is she in prison if that's the case? So President Trump has told us to release all credible evidence. If Ghislaine Maxwell has information about anyone who has committed crimes against victims, the FBI and the DOJ will hear what she has to say. I'm sure they probably already did hear what she had to say. I'm sure they did. I think, my opinion, the problem is that the Biden administration destroyed all of the Epstein shit. I think they did. That's just my own opinion. I don't think there's anything to show, and this is just their way of just covering for the Democrats for some stupid reason. But anyway, therefore, at the direction of Attorney General Bondi, I have communicated with counsel for Ms. Maxwell to determine whether she would be willing to speak with prosecutors from the department. I anticipate meeting with Ms. Maxwell in the coming days. Until now, no administration on behalf of the department had inquired about her willingness to meet with the government. That changes now. My God, dude. I hope she talks. I hope she sings. I hope she said, yeah, there absolutely was a client list. But even if she did, will they even tell us? I don't think we would even know. I don't think they will even tell us, but I hope they do. I don't know. We'll just have to see. We'll just have to wait and see. But that's pretty big news. That's big. I'm definitely looking forward to that. So Rep. Jamie Raskin, Speaker Johnson would rather cancel all votes and hearings than simply have a vote on bipartisan legislation demanding the release of the Epstein files, something he, Trump, and Bondi have been demanding for months, a pathetic new low in political cowardice and legislative malpractice. Okay, dude, you can deal without the aggressive rhetoric, but yeah, I agree with that. I agree with it. Release everything. And if there's nothing to release, then tell us that. Not that anybody's really going to believe that. I mean, if they come out and said, if they say that the Biden administration had destroyed so much that there really isn't anything left to show, then come out and say that. Again, not that anybody's going to really believe that. But yeah, they've really dug themselves into a hole on this. So from the New York Times, breaking news, Speaker Mike Johnson said he would shut down the House until September to block a vote on calling for the release of the Jeffrey Epstein files. Not sure if that's really true. The New York Times, I don't really trust them all that much, but I don't know, maybe anonymous sources probably told them that. So Senator Eric Schmidt, tomorrow I'm leading a hearing on how we can forcibly dismantle the DEI regime. For too long, our civil rights bureaucracy has aided and abetted discrimination. It's time for lawbreakers to pay the price. Absolutely. So he's actually got a thread here. Let me just see here. Here's a hard but necessary truth. For decades, our civil rights laws have been used not to prevent discrimination, but to enforce it. Rather than protecting the equal rights of all citizens, the civil rights bureaucracy has become the enforcement arm of the new caste system. This new system has gone by many names. Today, it has found its most radical and extreme expression in the form of diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI. DEI is not just illegal, it's a fraudulent and cynical doctrine from top to bottom, built upon layers of lies. It's not about diversity, it's about discrimination. Absolutely. And I think that's pretty common knowledge at this point. A sustained campaign of collective punishment wrapped in the rhetoric of social justice. It is not about equity, it's about power. And they don't want to level the playing field. Yeah, they don't want to level the playing field. They want to elevate some groups over others. Also true. And finally, it's not about inclusion, it's about exclusion of the competent, the qualified, and the meritorious, when those people are members of the wrong race or sex. This is so true, man. He's absolutely dropping bombs. Over the last few decades, this poisonous and brazenly illegal doctrine has transformed our institutions. In the universities, DEI has meant the abolition of merit. Even after the Supreme Court banned race-based admissions in 2023, elite schools like Harvard and Stanford just rebranded their quotas, embedding them in essay prompts and hiring policies rather than ending them outright. In the corporate world, DEI has meant hiring and the promotion not on the basis of competence, but on the basis of race and sex, a world where one's place in the new caste system determines who rises and who falls. In many blue states, DEI is now entrenched in every level of government decision-making. At the federal level, it's produced a vast universe of civil service preferences, billions of dollars in taxpayer-funded minority-only grants. Yeah, that's definitely illegal, and open racial discrimination in contracting. It's a blatant violation of the Civil Rights Act, man. That doesn't apply to minorities. That applies to everybody. Everybody. Under the Biden administration, farmers in the Midwest were told they couldn't get debt relief, restaurants were deemed ineligible for federal grants, and small business owners were barred from lucrative federal contracts, all for the crime of being too male or too white. Minority farmers set for $2 billion from USDA after years of discrimination. All right. Let's be clear. If we're going to have civil rights laws, the only just and legitimate interpretation is what their text plainly demands: equal treatment for all Americans under the law. No racial preferences, no double standards, no legal fictions like disparate impact. Under President Trump, we've begun to do just that with the leadership of people like AAG, Harmeet D. Dillon inside the administration, and allies like America First legal president Gene Hamilton USA outside of it. This administration has moved boldly to restore equal treatment under the law. These actions are just the beginning, but they represent, at long last, the first serious attempt by the American government to reassert the principle that civil rights belong to all Americans. This hearing is about ensuring that we do everything in our power to finish the job. Amen. Yep, we got to get rid of DEI. That was a really good layout. He did a pretty bang-up job on that thread. All right, for Senate Republicans, legal workers have nothing to worry about. Senator Booker should focus on serving Americans instead of offering protection to illegal immigrants. And this is what Cory Booker said and showed. The hands that feed us. We see you. We will fight to protect you. Oh, yeah, here. Video clip here. Let me zoom out a little bit. There we go. So we see a little bit better. I thought that was going to be mariachi music at first. Mr. Booker, how dare you? All right. I mean, like, I'm assuming these are illegal immigrants, and I'm assuming that they gave their consent for their faces to be plastered all over social media for federal government officials. I'm assuming he got their consent on that. Probably not. I'm kidding, obviously. But anyway, Democrats never change. Democrats in 1863, Democrats in 2024. Hey, look at that. They just don't change. Because yeah, during the Civil War, the Democrats, they controlled the South. They were Confederacy. And when they lost, they got all ass hurt over it. So they decided to form the Klan, and the rest is history. A lot of people were like, "Oh, well, the party's totally flipped, man." No, they fucking didn't. That's the most boneheaded, retarded thing that I've ever heard. But yeah, there's a lot of Democrats who like to throw out that stupid talking point buzzword. The party's just flipped, though. No. All right, let's go on. Representative Richie Torres. Outdated kitchen equipment pollutes air quality in restaurants. Here, let me make this a little larger for you. All right, outdated kitchen equipment pollutes air quality in restaurants and across the surrounding communities. My new bill, the Chefs Act, would help small businesses upgrade to cleaner and more modern technology. No, it wouldn't help small businesses. It's going to force small businesses to upgrade. Remember those wood fire stoves or wood fire ovens or whatever? Like, it wasn't helping restaurants to upgrade to non-wood fire because of air pollution. No, they were forced to. They had to. And some restaurants had to go out of business because they didn't have the tens of thousands of dollars required to replace what they had in it. Because it included ventilation and all that, ridiculousness. But it's just I don't even know. I'm almost at a loss for words because they're just going to keep going on and on with this. What's next after this? I mean, well, better yet, what's it going to lead to? Every single human being on Earth, we exhale carbon dioxide. That's polluting the air. That's polluting the environment, technically. So what are you going to do? You're going to ban humans exhaling? I mean, I don't get it. Whatever. It's ridiculous. Here in the Bronx, commercial cooking is the #1 source of air pollution. We can't solve the problems with our air quality without overhauling the equipment inside our restaurants, and that's exactly what the Chefs Act is designed to do. Yeah, it's designed to force restaurants to shell out probably hundreds of thousands of more dollars that they don't have to upgrade their equipment that, frankly, isn't even broken. But it's all about, like, the air pollution. Dude, you've got... how many people live in New York City? Was it like 15 million people in the metro? 15, 20 million or some shit? Or you got like 8, maybe 10 million people just concentrated near the center of New York City. You got a huge population of people. There's going to be air pollution. You're never going to get rid of all the air pollution. It's just not possible. Like I said, everybody's going to be exhaling carbon dioxide anyway. The fuck are you going to do about that? But anyway, they claim that commercial cooking is responsible for 66% of the air pollution in the Bronx. Not really sure if that's true or not. I'm assuming traffic probably plays a much bigger role in that than 10%. I mean, it's not just the exhaust from the pipe. It's also brake dust. That's also a big problem, especially with all the stopping and going and whatnot. So, all right, I'm not going to get hung up on that. But let's see here. Do I got this zoomed in too much? Yeah, let me zoom out just slightly. Well, no, whatever. So watch. Mike Johnson responds to Mike Johnson about the Epstein files. This ought to be kind of a humorous bit here.
I'm for transparency. We're intellectually consistent.
Oh, wait, hold on. Here, let me crank this up first. I want to crank it up. I want to hear it. All right, let's go. I got it as loud as it'll get.
I'm for transparency. We're intellectually consistent in this. We look, Reagan used to tell us we should trust the American people. I believe in that principle. I know President Trump does as well, and I trust him. I mean, he put together a team of his choosing, and they're doing a great job. It's a very delicate subject, but we should put everything out there and let the people decide it. I mean, the White House and the White House team are privy to facts that I don't know. I mean, this isn't my lane. I haven't been involved in that. But I agree with the sentiment that we need to put it out there.
Yeah, no, I just explained why. We're not going to play political games with this. We've all been very clear and transparent.
All right, whatever. Wasn't as funny as I expected it to be, but there you go. I can't undo that. Anyway, Kelly Loeffler, for years under Joe Biden, SBA banned faith-based organizations from receiving critical disaster relief in times of tragedy. Last week, we reversed the ban with a clear message that we will not tolerate religious discrimination. So this is from Catholic News Agency. This was back on July 16th. The U.S. Small Business Administration is opening a Center for Faith and eliminating a regulation that banned faith-based groups from receiving disaster loans. That's good. It's a good thing. Why would they ban them from doing so? I mean, a loan is a loan. Who gives a shit who you're giving a loan to? As long as they're a law-abiding citizen or a law-abiding organization, give them the loan, they'll pay it back with interest. What the fuck's the problem? Why does it matter if they're religious or not? Whatever. But anyway, that's good. It's good they got that done. I mean, it just goes to show all these things that are going on in government that so many people are not even aware that even exist, especially me. I mean, I really don't. Everything that I'm reading day by day, this is all new news to me. I mean, I'm no expert in the government. I'm just some everyday person just working a 9-to-5 job, living in St. Pete, Florida, just doing my own daily thing, just moving on through life. But I've always had an interest with the government, just not from a professional standpoint. I just enjoy reading about what's going on. I've been keeping tabs on it for quite a while, for at least a couple years. I mean, I first joined Twitter in 2013, and I was on there pretty much every day for a while. And then I kind of lost interest in it maybe around 2015, 2016. And then Twitter just went way downhill after that. I was really glad I was not on there. Honestly, I probably would have just been banned outright because way many people were back before Elon Musk bought it out. But once he bought it out and a lot of people were migrating back to it, I decided to jump in and just kind of see how it came along after he purchased it. And it's way better. So much better than it used to be. But anyway, so this is from the DoD Rapid Response. Our strength is the American warrior. Let's check this out.
Recognize the pilots who flew those bombers, who flew those fighters, who flew those refuelers. Every American involved in this operation performed flawlessly. The Marines that I see in the Indo-Pacific are the eyes of deterrence. It is on your shoulders that we stand, and it is to you that I am committed each and every day to simply have your back. That's all I ever wanted when I was a young leader. I wanted leaders that gave me a clear mission, the resources to do it, the training to do it, so we were ready, and then had our back when we had to make difficult decisions at difficult places that politicians in air-conditioned offices would never understand. That's our pledge to you. That's what President Trump always wants me to communicate to you, and that's what we will follow through on.
Hell yeah, I love it, man. Our military is so badass, aren't they? So fucking badass. All right, so let's just move on. So from Rep. Rick Crawford, congratulations, Rep. Garbarino. I look forward to working closely with you on securing our homeland. Let's see, from Jake Sherman. Breaking, Andrew Garbarino, I hope I'm saying that right, of New York is the next chair of the House Homeland Security Committee. House Republican Steering Committee tapped the 40-year-old New Yorker for the slot. Hey, he's the same age as I am. I'm 40. Garbarino's predecessor, Pete King, previously chaired the panel. So that happened today. So we got a new chair of the House Homeland Security Committee. So let's go. That's something I'm sure they're not saying, they're not reading, they're not discussing anywhere on mainstream news, but you heard it here. So from Thomas Massey, Americans were promised justice. Our binding bipartisan legislation to release the complete Epstein files now has 20 sponsors. Soon, we can begin collecting signatures required to force a public vote in the U.S. House. Is your member on this list? And, I mean, look, both sides, Republicans and Democrats, they're calling for this to be released. So it's not just being screamed by Democrats. It's happening on both sides. So anyway, I don't know. Is our member on the list? I don't know. I guess we'll find out. When I checked it this morning, my Congress member was not on the list. My Congresswoman is Anna Paulina Luna, and this morning she wasn't on here. But this is really interesting, dude. Check this out. These are names that you would not see together in almost any circumstance at all. I'm just trying to make it big enough so y'all can see this. Yeah, this should be big enough. So Rep Marjorie Taylor Greene's on here. Tim Burchett. Let's see. Lauren Boebert. Lauren Boebert's on here. Let's see. Corey Mills. Tom Barrett. Check this out. Rashida Tlaib. That is fucking wild. Look at the AOC. Alexander Ocasio-Cortez is on here. Extreme far left. And then we've also got the right-wingers on both sides. They are teaming up to try to get this thing passed and try to get the Epstein files released. So there's a lot of co-sponsors. That's quite a lot. Yeah, we'll see how that progresses. From the different states, there's one from Florida, not mine. Yeah, so I actually tweeted or posted at Anna Paulina Luna this morning with regard to this post. Just putting in my 2 cents that, yeah, you should add your name to this list because we at least my opinion, I think we deserve to know. Whether if it's a good or a bad thing overall, we should know, or we should at least see it. They promised it, and they need to deliver it. So, all right, moving on. From the State Department, travel in Laos, the typhoon Wifa. I still didn't figure out how to pronounce that. Wifa. I don't even know, but it's expected to make landfall in the northern Lao provinces between Tuesday, July 22nd and Wednesday, July 23rd. They originally said that it was going to make landfall either today or yesterday. So it must be tracking slower. So, but anyway, the Mekong River Commission has issued a high-risk warning for flash floods in Luang Prabang. So that's happening. Hurricanes, it's hurricane season, typhoon season. It's not good. So if you have any travel plans to Vietnam, or if you know anybody in Vietnam, I'm sure they're very well aware of what's going on, but they're about to get blasted by a hurricane, or I'm sorry, a typhoon. All right, so from Congressman Gabe Amo, the big ugly bill is now a law, and it's worse than we thought. Millions kicked off health insurance. There it goes again, that another fake-ass talking point. $3.4 trillion added to the deficit, more money out of your pocket. This law dips into your pocket and steals from your kids and grandkids. It's a betrayal of the American people. Yeah, because, Democrats, they've never stolen anything from anybody, right? Just in, President Trump's big, beautiful bill, which, of course, they have to put it in quotes. He signed into law this month, will add $3.4 trillion to the U.S. national debt over the next decade, according to a new report by the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office. But again, didn't Joe Biden, didn't he add $7+ trillion to the national debt in just 4 years? Not 10, but just 4 years. So anyway, I think there were only 2 comments with regard to this. I'd like to at least show both sides. I don't want to read everything Republican. I mean, I consider myself a conservative. I voted for Trump 3 times. I also voted for Obama twice. So, I mean, only recently, only in like the last 10 years did I actually wake up and start paying attention. And I had common sense the whole time. I was just kind of politically retarded, I guess. I didn't really pay much attention to politics in my 20s and like right around when I was 30 years old was when I started to pay more attention to it. But but ever since then, obviously, I side a lot more with Republicans. The Democrats have lost their ever-loving minds. They have completely just fallen off the cliff. Their blatant lies and just the propaganda they're constantly going after and just trying to drive us into socialism. And it's just, I can't stand any of it. especially with wokeness and everybody's got to be transgender and women are men now, and now women have to hate men, and like white men are the devil, and it just goes on and on. It's not just the Democratic Party, it's just the culture that they're creating, and they're spewing it out through Hollywood and through pop culture in general, and it's just an absolute clusterfuck. But it seems like things are starting to get a little better. But anyway, like on these episodes that I'm doing, I don't want to just show everything from the Republicans. If I see something from the other side, especially if it's something that seems sensible, I mean, I'm not going to ignore it. I'm sure a lot of other people would, but I won't. I mean, as long as it makes sense, or if it's like just blatantly just idiotic or insane, I'll put it up here on screen. So in the comments with regard to this, the millions that were kicked off health insurance, the big beautiful bill, they're jabbing at it as they have been for days and days at this point because they got nothing else better to talk about. The CBO's, this is from the Doge AI bot again. The CBO's static projection ignores the growth unleashed by tax reform, energy dominance, and industrial revival. Real revenue comes from production, not taxation. The bill cuts waste, like Biden-era green slush funds, and redirects $1.6 trillion to secure borders, build defense, and empower workers through tip and overtime tax relief. The debt surged under Biden's $7 trillion spending blitz. Trump's model prioritizes output over austerity. The 2017 tax cuts proved dynamic gains work, generating $300 billion plus in revenue. This bill accelerates that success, forcing D.C. to finally serve Americans, not globalist nonsense. See how the numbers and policy details stack up against the spin. Yeah, I'll just leave that down there. I mean, it's easy to find posts. If you're also on X, you can just go check that out. And of course, I said amen, but yeah, they said suck it up, Buttercup. So there you have it. I think I'm getting pretty close to the end here. Let me just take a quick, okay. Which I believe that's what I just read. Yeah, that's what I already read. So from Rep. Carlos A. Jimenez, congratulations to Rep. Garbarino on his selection as the next chairman of Homeland GOP. I look forward to continuing to work alongside him. The House Homeland GOP. I call each of the candidates friends, and I was honored to have been considered for this important position. And next, from DoD Rapid Response, Governor, thugs took over your streets and were attacking federal agents. You did nothing to stop this madness, so we stepped in. God bless our Marines and Guardsmen. There you have it. And that's in response to Governor Newsom, who said this. This sham deployment of the California National Guard is a massive waste of time and taxpayer money, costing the Department of Defense millions while pulling troops from real missions like fire response. Real Donald Trump in the militarization once and for all. Do the right. I'm assuming it just says do the right thing. Yeah, of course. But dude, I don't even have to respond to that. Everybody knows how fucked up California is right now, and how they're just letting them run wild and letting them take over streets and letting them take over highways and staging all these massive protests, burning down police vehicles. I think that that's a Waymo, I think, one of those autonomous vehicles that are driving around that are about to take over and put everybody who drives Uber and Lyft out of business. I mean, that's coming up quick. But, I mean, yeah, the same with shoplifting. I'm pretty sure that's still in effect in California. It's something like under $900 or $860 if you shoplift less than $900, the police won't even show up. They won't even arrest you or anything. They'll just let you go, which is why so many businesses in these cities are just closing up and leaving. Like Portland, Oregon, for instance, there's not a single Walmart in Portland, Oregon anymore. There were like 4 or 5 different Walmarts around the city. None. Zero. Walmart packed up and left Portland. And that's not the only one. I think CVS and Walgreens, they did the same thing. Because too many people, they just keep going in there and committing crimes. They keep shoplifting, which really should be considered grand theft if it's over $500. That should be a damn felony. So, yeah, so there you have it with Governor Newsom. So from the Ways and Means Committee, you do realize having a winning hand isn't a bluff, right? Oh yeah, here, let me just show you this first. That way you can get a little bit of context. Ways and Means Democrats. Republicans are taking their tax scam on tour. This week, Nevada and California. We'll be there to call their bluffs. Ways and Means across the country exposing GOP lies and broken promises. July 25th, Nevada, July 26th in California. So the response by the Ways and Means Committee on the GOP side They said, do you realize having a winning hand isn't a bluff, right? A winning hand is what we've delivered for the American people with no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and other pro-worker benefits, and you voted against it 3 times. Looking forward to the explanation. I don't know if they're going to live stream that. Not sure, but you can mark your calendars. It's coming up in a few days. So moving on with the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Jules Sincere Armstead will spend the rest of his life in prison after sex-extorting children. This 21-year-old Texas man was found guilty of a slew of charges thanks to the work of ICE HSI special agents across the nation. We appreciate the help from local law enforcement and our outstanding federal partners. San Angelo man sentenced to 245 years. Holy shit. Good. In federal prison for sextorting minors and an adult across the United States. So the HSI Dallas San Angelo field office led the joint investigation. So I will just, or will I? Oh yeah, here we go. Like, why the hell wasn't it working? Just click on this here. So 245 years to federal prison. Let's see. They pretty much got the gist of it in the post, but Jules or Wells Sincere Armstead. Let's see. He was only 21 too. What fucking idiot. He was found guilty by a Lubbock, Texas jury in April of 2025. So this isn't exactly new news. He was probably sentenced today. That'd be my guess. Or no, he wasn't. He was sentenced on July 15th. Okay, so this is just a reminder. Maybe they just didn't get to it until now. That's probably why they dropped that today. Sometimes it happens. You know, the government sometimes are slow with their ex posts, as well as damn near everything else in government. All right, so let's move on. Let's see what else we have here. Oh, that's it. That's all I got. Yay! That's it. No more to discuss in the affairs of the government today. So I hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully you might come back tomorrow. I will post another one tomorrow. I'll be back. And if you like the video, please give a like. Definitely subscribe if you have an extra 2 seconds to do so. I'd really, really appreciate it. And I guess until next time, God bless America.